Hey there nation, welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and now it's time for another edition of The Longest War. This is battle report number 3 for our Warhammer 40,000 battle reports. It is a 1,000 point battle that is fought with my 1st Necromunda Peanut Battalion with B Company of the Astra Militarum versus my buddy Odeth of the Eternus Vita, which is his army of Daemons of Sneech army. So it's going to be kind of neat. We're using a 1,000 points of Astra Militarum versus Demons. Be kind of interested to see exactly how you go about using the new rules for this rule set. I'm looking really forward to this battle report because this is the very first time I actually fought Demons of Sneech before in a battle report, so I'm really looking forward to see exactly what happens. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick and go through the army lists. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for each side of the armies, please feel free to pause and take a look at your own leisure. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get it on. Alright folks, now let's talk about the scenario rules. For this one, we are fighting on a 4x6 table. The scenario is just a straight up, just regular battle line type of situation. We have both armies. I'm deploying the near side of the board. My opponent's deploying the far side of the board. All we're trying to do is just destroy each other until either one of us basically surrenders, or we just basically kill the other guy off the table. So, no real objectives on this one. This one's just a good old-fashioned throwdown. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the battle plan. Alright, so let's talk about the battle plan real fast. As you can see, my forces are scattered along the main center portion of the board as well as the right-hand flank of the board. That leaves my left-hand flank kind of open. The idea is that I'm trying to hope that I can bait my opponent, Odeth, to come at me at my left-hand flank so that way I can shoot at him as he comes through. We are fighting in a city, so as you can see, there's a lot of terrain and a lot of cover that's available for people to hide behind. So my plan is to kind of draw him to the left-hand side with his forces into my left-hand flank, then I can engage him and then just kind of shoot him up as he's coming towards me. My plan is not to really move all that much in this battle report. I plan on staying exactly where I'm at because I'm fighting a defensive position. Because the last time I advanced, that was against Gene Stealer Cult, and that just worked really bad against me. So I decided I'm going to do what I did in my very first battle report. I'm going to stand my ground and defend and make my opponent come to me. And that's pretty much what I'm going for this battle report. Alright, so let's go and talk about the deployment real fast. On my left-hand side, I have Gosling's Goons. That is my 4th Infantry Platoon in my Bravo Company. As you can see on the left-hand side there, I have my, on the very top of that gantry walkway, I have my One-Hit Wonders. That is my 6-man Special Weapons Squad. They're all equipped with sniper rifles. So there's 3 sniper rifles up there. Right beneath that gantry walkway, I have Gosling, Judge Gosling, as well as the Interceptor. That is my Platoon Commander. To the right of him, of course, I have Judge Darko. That is my Lord Commissar. That's my Company 1st Sergeant. And then right in front of them, of course, I have my huge unit of conscripts, my people leaders, and they're just there to kind of intercept the pink horrors that are coming down that runway about 24 inches ahead of them. So that'd be kind of like, they're there for cannon fodder, and hopefully if they make it or die, it doesn't really matter because they're just conscript troops. In the center of my deployment area, I have my first platoon, that's Drake's Destroyers, as well as my command section. In the back, in the center, I have Commander Cheapskate. That is my company commander. He is flanked by Judge Anderson and Judge Hershey, which are the fire control officers. One is a officer of the fleet, the other one is a master of bombardment, so that way they can lay in some air support as well as artillery support for my army. And spread out the entirety along those bunkers is my first platoon. That's Drake's Destroyers. On the left-hand side, we have Busta Nine's crew. On the right-hand side, we have Mega Man's crew. And then, of course, I have my Suicide Squad, which is right in the middle as well. L, which is my squad of veterans, and these guys are there to kind of protect them. And right smack down in the middle, right behind my Suicide Squad, is Judge Drake. That is the platoon commander for 1st Platoon. Now, on the right-hand side of my center portion, I have my 3rd Platoon. That is Cold's Commandos. That's the maneuver element of my forces. It's basically an infantry platoon. I have my Iron Sights as well as the Killjoys up in the front. Right behind them, of course, I have my Jury. That is Riptor's crew. And then right in the center of them, of course, I also have my platoon commander also located there as well. That's Judge Cold, and he's there to lend orders and support. So these guys, my plan is to keep these guys kind of here and have them be like a QRF or a reactionary force, where they can quickly move along my battle lines and kind of lend support wherever they need to. And then finally, making my right-hand flank, occupying the entire Parkview office building for all 3 levels of that, I have my 2nd Platoon, which is Mason's Marauders. As you can see, I have my Pelagos Land Kings on the top level, followed by my Sleeping Dogs on the 2nd level, followed by my Jury Limited Heads crew on the bottom level. These are the units that have my last cannons located in them as well. Also on the 2nd floor there, you can also see Judge Mason as well. And these guys are here to lay down some long-range fire with those last cannons. And hopefully I'm going to try to pick off my opponent's Greater Demons using those last cannons if I get the chance. Alright, up next we have the deployment for the Demons of Sneech. This is the deployment here on the left-hand side on top of the overpass. As you can see, we have the 2 units of Colors of Outer Space. Those are the 2 units of Screamers. We have 6 Screamers that are like there on the top of the freeway. And right in the center of them, of course, we have the Shadow of Innistrad. That is a Burning Chariot, I believe is what those are called. And he's right there located in the center. These guys are really quick, really fast, really devastating close combat as well as shooting. So very, very deadly force up here on the freeway. Right beneath the freeway on the left-hand side, we have the Changelings. That is a huge unit of 20 Zangors. Those guys are armored chainsaw as well as auto pistols, and that's kind of like a maneuver element, taking care on the left-hand side for Odeth's Eternus Vita. And then making Bassin deployment, he has his Horrors of Dunwich, the Dunwich Horrors. That's his unit of 10 pink horrors. Right behind them, of course, he has a Herald of Sneech. That is Caliban, Horror Shepherd of the Waste. He's right behind those guys that lend support with magic and also give kind of bonuses to Demons of Sneech because that's what they do best. And located in the center on the very top of the Crown Complex, looking like a boss overlooking the entire city, that's my opponent's the Lord of Change. That is Krakalikos, the Warden of Pathways. He's located on top of the Crown Complex, lending some lending psychic support, because I forgot this is Warhammer 40,000. We don't have magic, we have psychers. And that pretty much makes the deployment for my opponent on this one. Alright, so that takes the top of turn number 1 for Astra Militarum. This is after the move phase. As you can see, I don't do any moving whatsoever. I decided not to go on the offense this time. Last time I went off on the offense was against my opponent's Genestealer cults for my buddy Warlord Ace, and that just kind of came up and bit me in the rear end and just really cost me a lot of damage. So this time, I'm going to pretty much do the same tactic I did in my very first battle port. I'm going to maintain my fighting positions right where they're located at in a defensive position, make my opponent come to me and whittle him down with fire, and then I'll basically overwhelm him during the assault phases and hopefully just kind of destroy him that way. So as you can see there, none of my forces are pretty much moving. They're all located where they're at right now. During the shooting phase, the very first thing is I start giving out orders to all my troops. I gave them the ability to reroll ones that they miss. I gave that for my one-hit wonders, for my snipers, as well as for my conscripts, because they're shooting at long range at those pink horrors. And using 2 of my platoon leaders for Blessed Judge Mason as well as Judge Colt, I give the same exact order to my, Jury's Limited Heads crew on the bottom there, as well as to my Sleeping Dogs. And I also use my Commander Chiefskate's command ability to give orders to the top of my my people leaders as well. Not my people leaders, I'm sorry, my Pelagos Land Kings. So that way they all can reroll ones to miss, because those guys have my last cannons, and this long range shooting is going to really help me out in this next phase. Unfortunately, shooting was pretty lackluster on the left-hand side. I only managed to kill 2 pink horrors out of all my conscripts, and the reason why I just rolled horribly for me to be able to shoot. And plus, these guys are really resilient as well. The Demons of Sneech, they all have like a 4-up invuln save, because demons usually get a 5-up invuln save, but because these guys have ephemeral form, which is one of the Demons of Sneech bonus abilities, they get +1 to our invuln save. So they have a 4-up invuln, so they're really hard to kill at this point. And so because I only managed to kill 2 of those pink horrors, they automatically become 2 blue horrors in the process of doing that. And at the same time, my last cannon guys managed to put 5 wounds onto Krakalikos, the Warden of Pathways. So not as spectacular as I was hoping for, but then again, I'll take what I can get, because that thing has a really high invuln save, and it's just really hard to try to kill that guy. Alright, since we skipped the charge as well as the combat phase of my army, we go directly at the bottom of turn number 1 for the Demons of Sneech. This picture is taken directly after the move phase. As you can see, the first thing that my opponent does, he just starts advancing his forces as quickly as possible to get close to me as quickly as he can. Below the freeway, he actually has his Zangors. They advance up about 12 inches, so they're right behind the Precinct 13 building, which is beneath the freeway here. He also moves up his Burning Chariot as well as the Screamers, moving them as quickly as they possibly can on top of the freeway. He then kind of jumps and uses the advance roll for his Lord of Change, Krakalikos. He goes on the top of the complex to the left-hand side to the middle of the freeway, so that way he's in an area where I can't shoot him at because he's kind of covered from that part as well. At the same time, in the center, you can see that he advances up forward with his pink horse, the Sneech, as well as his Herald of Sneech as well. And if you also notice there on the right hand side, we're going to take a close up there in a second. He summons up another Lord of Change. That's Baldros. He's located on the top of that office building there on the right hand side as well. Now, I know what you're going to be saying. A lot of you guys who are like noticing this, you're like, wait a minute, does he need points in order to summon up things? Yes, he would, technically speaking, if we were playing competitively, but we're not. We're just playing at home. And as you guys are fully aware, myself and my gaming group, we do not like the summoning pool points for either Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40,000 either, so we're not going to do summoning pool points at all. I know a lot of you guys would say that he could spam summoning if he does that, but you know what? I really don't care, and he doesn't either, because summoning pool points are just ridiculous to us, so we're just going to do it as we want to because it's our battle reports and we do what we want. Here's a close-up of his changelings running as quick as they possibly can underneath the freeway in order to flank me on the left-hand side. During the summoning phase, Skokalikos, the Ward of Pathways, decides to summon up another Lord of Change. As you can see, that he's got 2 6s and a 5. According to the rules, when you roll doubles, you take a mortal wound. So because of that, Skokalikos is now up to 6 wounds onto his miniature. And summoned exactly 12 inches to the right of him, we have Baldros. He's located on the top of that office building, so now he has 2 Lords of Changes on the battlefield, and that's going to be kind of intimidating to take on here in a little bit. At the same time, during the summoning phase, Caliban, the Horror Shepherd of the Waste, also summons up another Herald of Sneech, so you can see it on the left-hand side. We have Skeksis, our Dark Crystal. That is a Herald of Sneech mounted on top of a Disc of Sneech as well, so very, very deadly for that part. During the psychic phase, as you can see in this picture here, I believe it's Baldros. I believe he uses his smiting ability as well, so he manages to cause like D6 mortal wounds onto my unit of People Eaters, so that was absolutely devastating as well. I forgot what other magic missile was also. Actually, no, I'm sorry. 2 smites. That's right. It was 1 smite from Baldros as well as another smite from Skokalikos, Ward of the Pathways. Basically, reduced my People Eaters into half is what ended up happening. So that was absolutely devastating. At the same time, he takes his Herald of Sneech and he also casts off, I believe it's the spell that gives you +1 attacks or +1 strength or +1 toughness. In the end, he got the +1 toughness off onto his pink horrors, and so now that unit is going to be a little bit tougher to kill as well during the shooting phase or in future combat phase as well. So very successful psychic phase for my buddy Odeth. As you can see during the shooting phase, putting a couple of more shots from his pink horrors onto my People Eaters, reducing them to about a third of their normal strength. And in the charging phase, Baldros was a total beast with a perfect 12 inches to land from the top of the office building right directly into my one-hit wonder, so now my snappers will be engaged in close combat. So absolutely devastating charge phase for my opponent. And as you can see from this photo in the combat phase, Baldros had no problem whatsoever eating my 6-man unit of special weapons guys alive, so my one-hit wonder unit got totally destroyed on that part, and he also flew down with his 3-inch reconciliation movement, came down to confront my Lord Commissar, which is Judge Darko, so now those two will be engaged in close combat as well. For the morale phase, I used my Inquisitor's summary execution ability on my People Eaters, so they only lost 1 guy, and the rest of them kind of stayed. So that pretty much rounds up turn number 1 for the Demons of Sneech. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Astra Militarum. This photo is taken after the movement phase, and at this point I decide maybe staying back and taking the defensive is not such a good idea, because my opponent can keep on summoning up new units, so I have to engage those units or try to take out those characters before they can summon anymore. So you can see in the top of the page on the left hand side, I move up my People Eaters as well as my Gosling and his Interceptor. I move those guys up to the 2nd level of the gantry walkways there in the middle, as well as my People Eaters are up on the 3rd level, so that way they get a really good firing position from that top level as well. I advance those guys in order to do that. My first platoon stays exactly where they're located at. All they really do is kind of shuffle to the left a little bit, so that way they can bring the huge bearing fire of my veterans, as well as my 2 special weapons squads, as well as my commander, as well as my 2 fire support officers and platoon leader to bring against Baldros, because that thing is very, very deadly in close combat. As you can see, I also take Cole's Commandos, my maneuver element, and I move those guys and advance them directly into the Parkview building right in the center of the battlefield, so that way they can start laying down some long-range fire with their last rifles against that unit of pink horrors as well. And then as you can see on the right hand side, I shuffle a little bit of my Mason's, Mason's Marauders. All 3 of those squads of last cannon guys move to various levels, so that way they can start putting down some fire from the right hand side. Here's a close-up of my People Eaters, as well as my Lord Commissar. He just basically fell back as we did in order to get away from Baldros, as well as my platoon commander on top of this gantry walkway to put down some fire onto Baldros, as well as to those pink horrors. And here's a close-up of my first as well as third platoons maneuvering so that way they can start engaging Balders on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you can see that my Colts commandos are moving as quick as they possibly can, occupying the second level of the Park View building as well as the first level of the Park View building with my jury. From where they're located at, they can see through the windows to engage those pink horrors, and you can see my killjoys are kind of taking up the back as well. And then following the right-hand side with Mason's Marauders. As you can see, I moved the advanced rules for all these guys, so they won't be able to shoot in this next phase unless I use the move ability or advanced fire. I forgot the other one. There's also a rule where order you can give where they can shoot as well as advance in the same turn. So you can see that I got my Sleeping Dogs taking up the firing position right on the other side of the Slime River, right behind them at the Pelago Slam Kings. And on the second floor of the Metro Terminal, I have my unit of jury that's Lemonhead's crew right in the second level there as well. Alright, in the shooting phase, I give an order for my people leaders so that way they can shoot even though that they maneuvered this turn, so that way they can open up onto those pink horrors. And I give the exact same order to my iron sights as well as to my jury as well, so that way they can engage those pink horrors just on the outside of this Parkview office building complex. And then finally give the move order to my unit of jury members, the Lemonhead's crews. They get to the very top of the Metro Terminal, so that way they can start putting on some long-range fire on the next turn and engage those targets on top of the freeway as well. So during the shooting phase, I managed to kill Balders right off the bat. This is the amount of special weapons fire that was going into him from my three squads as a first platoon, as well as regular last rifle rounds going onto that guy. Just totally devastated that fool, so we managed to kill that guy as well, which is pretty awesome. At the same time, I managed to kill a handful of pink horrors as well, so just like as always though, more blue horrors pop up in the line. I would have killed more, but unfortunately these guys had +1 to their toughness as well, so they were toughness 4 against with a 4-up ward save, and so I had a really hard time trying to kill those guys because they were pretty tough. And then finally, I managed to put 4 wounds onto Skrakalikos, the Ward of Pathways as well. I used the artillery barrage that my artillery master has in order to do that because all my other forces moved. They really couldn't shoot with the last cannon. So 4 mortal wounds, I'll take them. This guy is almost halfway dead, so that part was kind of cool. So with that out of the way, we go to bottom turn number 2 for the Demons of Sneech, and this photo is taken directly after the move phase. As you can see, my opponent starts making some real dynamic moves at this point. On the very top of his freeway, he moves Skrakalikos, the Ward of Pathways, to the end of the freeway, so that way he can start lending some psychic support during the psychic phase and to start engaging some of my units. At the same time, he moves down to the Shadow of Innistrad into the Gantry walkway, so that way his Burning Chariot can start engaging my people leaders. He also moves up his Screamers of Sneech as well, advances into the bottom there on the bottom of the level there, so you can see the 3 Screamers of Sneech are located right there in the bottom. He also puts them on the second level so that way they can engage my Lord Commissar as well as my platoon commander for Gosling's goons as well. You don't really see on the back screen here, but I'll show in the close-up. He also moved up his Zangors around the outside of that building for the Precinct 13 as well, and also moves in his forces of horrors right down the main alleyway straight to my first platoon. And here's a close-up of his 20 Zangors, the Changeling rounding the corner around the Precinct 13 buildings, and now these guys will start being able to get into close combat as well as shooting in the next future phases coming up here in a little bit. At the end of the move phase, my buddy also summons up another Lord of Change as well, so Balders comes screaming back from the warp. He's on top of that freeway as well. He did roll doubles in order to get him, so because he does take a mortal wound as well, so now he's up to 11 wounds onto Skrakalikos, the Ward of Pathways. And then Caliban, the Horror Shipper of the Waste, as well as Skeksis of Dark Crystals, they also summoned 2 Exalted Flamers. So now we have Pinky and Blinky right there on the left and right hand side. He's got 2 Exalted Flamers, which puts them in perfect range for their long range fire of their, I believe it's called Pink Flames, I believe it was called. And so now I'm absolutely terrified of that part. During the psychic phase, Skrakalikos, the Ward of Pathways, used his Smite ability, managed to put 6 mortal wounds onto Commander Cheapskate. So because of that, my company commander has now been blasted to atoms all across the inner workings of the interwebs of space in the 40,000 universe. At the same time, Balders managed to wipe out 3 members of my Mega Man's crew as well. So no, 3 of those guys are dead. So my 3 plasma gunners and the other guys are left over from that group. And he also managed to get a +1 toughness off onto his horrors once again, so that unit is really tough to kill. I'm just surprised the amount of magic my opponents were able to pull out for this battle report. During the shooting phase, a couple of my people eaters get shoot up from the pink flames. They're being shot by the Exalted Flamer on top of the Burning Chariot of the Shadow over Innistrad, so that was pretty horrifying to see that happen. And over here, with the combined fires of his pink horror units as well as his 2 exalted flamers, not only did they wipe out Mega Man's crew, but they also wiped out most of my Suicide Squad as well. The only thing I have left are 2 members of that squad left over from there. And then of course I have Drake, who's kind of like standing by himself, who just watched his entire platoon just get evaporated with, you know, colorful flames from the Demons of Sneech, which is actually pretty devastating. And now I'm really terrified because those flamers are extremely deadly. So with the shooting phase over, we go directly to charge phase. You can see the colors out of space charge directly into my Lord Inquisitor, as well as to Gosling and the Interceptor. So my platoon commander, as well as my Lord Commissar, are now engaged in close combat. And the Shadow over Innistrad also charges into my people eaters to kind of just devour those guys and finish off my unit of conscripts as well. And to make matters worse, my buddy also charges in Inky and Binky as well to finish off the rest of my Suicide Squad, which is absolutely terrifying. So in the combat phase, you can see in this photo, my Shadow of Innistrad and my bunny's Shadow of Innistrad had no problem whatsoever killing the rest of my people eaters as well. Those guys kind of fell off the table or were left to survive on that part. At the same time, the Screamers of Sneech also had no problem killing my platoon commander as well. They then also reconciliated, so those 3 guys are now gained up onto my Lord Commissar as well. So that was pretty devastating. And then my opponent's Inky and Binky's 2 Exalted Flamers finish off the last 2 members of my Suicide Squad, and they do another 3-inch reconciliation move as well, and get engaged with my other member, my other 6-man Special Weapons Squad, which is Busted Nine's crew as well. So now those guys will be engaged in close combat. And so with that being said, we go directly to the top in turn number 3 for the Astra Militarum. This photo is taken directly after the moon phase. As you can see, I absolutely panic and I fall back with all of my forces right to the river. So that way I'm basically making a last stand at that slime river because I was absolutely terrified to see how destructive these Demons of Sneech can be. I mean, they're just really good. They're good in the psychic phase, they're good in the shooting phase, they're good in the combat phase. They're pretty resilient as well. They got powerful psychic abilities, and I realize I am totally outclassed by these guys. So I decided to fall back along the slime river, take a fight in defensive position to make my final protective fire. As you can see, I have all my infantry units there on the far side of the bank, getting ready to intercept whatever comes their way. I also have my my 3rd platoon of heavy weapon support guys are directly in the elevated position, so that way they can lay some supporting fire as well. So pretty much, I'm putting my back against the wall and making them come to me, and hopefully I can shoot them up before all hell breaks loose. As you can see, during the shooting phase, I give some orders to my 3 heavy weapon squads as well, so that way all 3 of those guys will be able to reroll ones if they miss with their last cannons, because that's the only thing I'm planning on shooting for this next shooting phase coming up. And this time, as you can see in this photo, I killed Skrulkalikos, the Warden of Pathways. My opponent just basically flubbed his invul saves. Was able to stop any of the shots that came in, so I killed Skrulkalikos and managed to put 3 wounds onto Baldr's as well. So now those 2 guys are really weakened, and I'm just kind of happy that that happened the way it did. I also took my fleet officer and decided to use his airstrike ability onto the burning chariot as well. Managed to put 5 wounds on that guy, so I was pretty satisfied with how that worked out as well. So things are looking pretty good for my forces so far. And then finally, my infantry units using their last rifles were able to kill off of Blinky. So Blinky, the Exalted Flamer, is now dead. They also managed to put 2 wounds onto Pinky as well. So now that guy is about 2 wounds in, which is a pretty good thing as well. So with nothing else going on for me, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 3 for the Demons of Sneech. This photo is taken after the move phase. As you can see in this photo, my opponent starts moving to me as quickly as he possibly can. He sends up his burning chariots as well as his unit of colors out of space. They fly forward in order to engage my forces. He also moves up Pinky as well as close as he can without exactly charging to my forces, so that way he can engage those guys into close combat as well. At the same time, the horrors, the Dunwich horrors, move through the bottom level of the office building to the right hand side, facing off against my infantry units. The same thing with Caliban as well as Skexstar Crystals. They kind of skirt around the other side of the building as well, so that they can summon up more forces to engage me. At the same time, in his back ranks there, Baldr's lands from the top of the freeway down to the bottom level, so that way he doesn't have to worry about being picked off by being shot at as well. And he also has his colors out of space still engaged with my Lord Commissar, as well as moving up his Zangors, moving as quickly as they possibly can in order to engage me as well. So with movement over, we go directly to the Demon Summoning Ritual. As you can see, my opponent decides to summon up another Herald of Sneech. He's located right there in the back of that bunker. He's also mounted on a Disc of Sneech as well, which also makes sense because that figurine has wings, and he can move quickly with these fast movers over here on the right-hand side. And on the other side of the Parkview building, on the street between the Parkview building as well as the Crown Complex, you can see that the 2 Heralds of Sneech also did summoning as well. We have another unit of Pink Horrors that have been summoned up there on the left-hand side. On the very far right-hand side, we have a unit of 3 Flamers of Sneech, just red normal Flamers, who also popped up there on the right-hand side as well. So now my opponent's Eternus Vita army is getting larger with the summoning, which is pretty crazy. During the psychic phase, actually it ended up being the newly summoned Herald with the wings that actually got off a smite spell. I managed to kill 3 members of my Busted Knight's crew as well, so 3 of those guys are now dead. The only guys are left over my 3 flamers for that group, so I was pretty sad about that. And over here on the right hand side, I forgot what the spell was, but basically it's like another magic missile. Managed to kill one of my platoon commanders as well, so I was pretty sad about that part. During the shooting phase over here in the center portion, you can see the Shadow of Innistrad had no problem wiping out the last 3 members of the that special weapon squad, so my flamers are now dead. At the same time, Pinky also managed to kill a handful of members of the Iron Sights as well with his flame attack abilities, so that part was kind of sad as well. In the charge phase, you can see in this photo both the Shadow of Innistrad as well as Pinky charged directly into my Iron Sights, as well as the Pink Horse and the Dunwich Horrors, the original unit of Dunwich Horror guys, also charging to take on Riptor's crew as well. So now those 2 units are engaged in close combat. At the same time, the Color Out of Space charges Judge Drake, which is my platoon leader from the first platoon, so now he's engaged in close combat, and the Herald of Sneech also charged in to take on my artillery commander as well. So now those guys will be engaged in close combat. So it charges over, you go directly to the combat phase. Starting on the back rank here, the 3 Colors Out of Space had no problem eating alive my Lord Commissar here on the left hand side, so that part was kind of sad. And over here in the bottom of the table, the Colors Out of Space ate up Judge Drake as well, so now my platoon commander is dead, and that newly summoned Herald also killed off my artillery commander as well, so pretty devastating as that goes. Meanwhile, here on the top of the screen, as you can see, the Shadow of Innistrad managed to kill a couple more of my Iron Sights, so that was pretty devastating for me as well. And that huge unit of Dunwich Horrors managed to cut down Riptor's crew down to half, so now I only have 5 guys left over in that unit as well, so that was absolutely devastating as well. Alright, so that takes the top of turn number 4 for the Astra Militarum. This photo is taken directly after the moon phase. As you can see in this photo, I don't do any moving whatsoever. I just pretty much keep over my forces to locate at, because I'm trying to hold on to this defensive position, destroy whatever's coming my way. And at this point, I have the sneaky suspicion that I might not make it, because I'll have a couple of squads left and not really much else to go on. And he's got a whole huge horde of stuff still coming my way. But you know what? I'm Imperial Guard, dang it. I'm going to try to fight out to the last. So during the shooting phase, I actually had a pretty successful one. As you can see, I managed to kill that newly summoned Herald of Sneech as well as the Shadow of Innistrad, which is pretty cool as well. I also managed to kill 2 more Pink Horrors as well as some Blue Horrors. So those guys just duplicate into more Blue Horrors and also more into Brimstone Horrors, because, you know, those guys never go away. So that part was kind of cool. And then I managed to pink off that very last Herald of Sneech from the Skeksis of Dark Crystal. Managed to take that guy out with some long-range fire from my last cannons as well as my last guns. So that part was kind of cool as well. And on that note, as you can see in this photo, I forgot to take a photo of the combat phase. I apologize for that part. And the reason why I think I forgot to take a photo is because not much really happened during the combat phase. I really didn't kill anything of his that was engaged in close combat, and he, I think, killed 1 or 2 of my guys, so it was pretty much a lackluster combat phase because he was pretty much fighting with his Brimstone Horrors, and those guys aren't very good either. So, mea culpa, please forgive me, forgot to do that part. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 4 for the Demons of Sneech. Alright, so the apologies out of the way. We're directly at the bottom of turn number 4 for the Demons of Sneech. This photo is taken directly after the moon phase. You can see a lot of movement starts taking place. My buddy O'Death is starting to smell blood in the water, so he just starts advancing his forces as quickly as he possibly can, also summoning up new units at the same time. First of all, his first unit of Colors of Space flies over the Killjoys, manages to kill 1 when flying over him, and then engage my Sleeping Dogs. So now those guys are engaged in close combat as well. He also falls over the second unit of the Colors of Space as well, flying over to where the rest of the bunker is, then on the right-hand side. He also moves up Baldur's as well to the middle of the bunker ring as well. He also moves in his newly summoned unit of Pink Horrors to the left-hand side, as well as his Flamers on top of that gantry walkway, on top of the bridge, on top of the Slime River, so that way engage me from shooting in that direction. And of course, his Changelings are still just trying to run as quick as they possibly can to try to engage my units as well. So that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. Also, during the demonic ritual phase, Baldur summons up Blinky back, so that guy is now back from the dead, so we don't have another Exalted Flamer onto the battlefield. And at the same time, not only do I have 10 Pink Horrors coming at me from the right-hand side with Caliban of the Waste, as well as those 3 Flamers, Caliban of the Waste, Shepherd of the Waste also managed to summon up another Burning Chariot as well. So the Shadow of Innistrad is back in the middle of the Slime River, looking at a straightaway running down my main battle line, which is absolutely terrifying to conceive. And during the psychic phase, Baldur's managed to smite my poor fleet officer as well, so now he is dead and off the battlefield. And during the shooting phase, all the rest of my Dream members, those guys got blasted away from both the Pink Horrors as well as the Flamers of Sneech as well. So that part was kind of sad. And also a couple of my Killjoys were also killed off by the Burning Chariot as well. The only thing I have left on my main battle line right now are 3 Iron Sights as well as a handful of Killjoys. We're in the middle of the Slime River. And in the charging phase, a pincer attack takes place on my Killjoy, so hitting from the left flank. As you can see, we got the Chevron Innistrad now engaged into my Killjoy. Same thing with the Blinky. He charges into the front of the Killjoys as well. The rest of the Brimstone Horrors and Blue Horrors, the Dunwich Horrors, they surround my last 3 members of the Ironsides as well. And then all 6 Screamers just need to descend upon my Sleeping Dogs. And now those Gale Forces are now engaged in close combat. And as you probably guessed, the air is filled with the dying scream of Imperial Guard as almost all of my Killjoys are killed off. Only got 4 more left. My 3 Ironsides got eaten alive by Brimstone Horrors, and my Sleeping Dogs, they did pretty good themselves. They managed to kill 2 members, 2 of the Screamers as well, but they also lost half their guys in the close combat in the process of doing so as well. So that was pretty devastating. So this is what happens exactly at the combat phase as well as the morale phase. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us directly to the end of the game. I realize the only thing I have left now are 2 complete squads. They have last cannons, so that's the only thing I have going for them, but everything else is pretty much dead. All my officers are dead, so I have no orders given whatsoever. I only got 2 infantry squad. I still have a whole huge tidal wave of demons that are coming my way, so I just kind of surrendered at this point because I realize there's no hope of me of winning at all. I'm not going to be able to pull it off by turn 5. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this battle report is now officially over. With that being said, we're going to go to the after action report and talk about exactly what led to my defeat on this one.
I thought about staying. They offered me the chance to lead them, to teach them, to be king. But my place is here, so I swallowed the juice, said the words, and here I am.
Did you say the words right this time?
Well, maybe I didn't say every single tiny little syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah. Basically.
Alright folks, up next now is time for the After Action Report. This is part of the battle report. We talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is After Action Report for the Longest War, Warhammer 40,000 Battle Report number 3, ended up being the defeat for yours truly. So I lost this one with hands down. So for losses, I pretty much lost everything in my army. I kid you not. If I would have gone one more round, I probably would have been destroyed completely by the end of the battle if I didn't quit early. As for Lord O'Death, he basically lost 1 unit. That was Quacali Cost of One of Pathways, which is the original Lord Change. But for the most part, though, I really didn't destroy anything else as well. And the reason why I lost this battle for one reason and one reason only, I was hesitant. I hesitated, I was afraid to engage, and because of that, I got destroyed. My opponent pretty much had the initiative for the entire battle. I was pretty much reacting to him the entire time, and so because of that, I wasn't able to recover and to defeat my opponent that way. In the end, I should have used Modern Warfare Doctrine in order to defeat my enemy, have a suppressive element, have a maneuver element, and then surround and pound on my enemy as well, and kind of destroy him as well. I did not do that, so because of that, I lost really bad on this part. He was basically engaging me on a one-to-one basis because of my hesitancy to engage him. So because of that, it kind of fell into his favor in order to do that. I'm still trying to get a hang on how to use this army, but I've never really played 40k before. I still love playing this game. It's really neat and interesting to play. Nice little change in the paradigm shift for that part. But for lack of a better word, I'm still trying to find my groove. I'm trying to still find a way how to use this army to kind of engage my opponent that way as well. On the flip side, Demons of Sneech are extremely powerful. I did not realize how powerful demons really were. They have a good psychic phase. I mean, they really dominate in the psychic phase as well. They have really good durability with their 4-up Emboldened saves and their 6-up saves as well. And they're really deadly in shooting and gloves as close combat. So it's pretty much a really good all-around army. Very surprised how devastating Demons of Sneech are in Warhammer 40,000. Most of you guys will also say that summoning was an issue. Yes, that is an issue because he is summoning up new units to basically take me on. And it's basically like Space Invaders. I'm taking on an endless tidal wave of demons. But you know what? You guys already know how I feel about it. You also have the idea of how my Graving Group feels about it. We don't like summoning pools, and we're never going to use them. If you don't like it, well, that's just the way we roll. Also, I also made a mistake when we were playing this one as well. I broke a rule playing this game as well. I forgot that in this game you can't target characters unless they're the closest unit to you, and I didn't remember that rule. And to be quite frank, my buddy O'Death didn't know that rule either. We didn't figure it out until afterwards when we were just looking over the rules and stuff like that. And I realized I made a mistake, and I should have never engaged his characters the way that I did because he had all these other units that had engaged ahead of him. So that was something we didn't really know about too often. So because of that, we have to remember that for the next time. So sorry about that rule. I made a mistake on that part, but you know, them's the break. As always, this was a good game. It was an awesome opponent to play against. It was a great challenge. I'm looking forward to rematch against him because I want to redeem myself and win that way as well. As always, guys, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always appreciated as always. And also remember, check us out on Instagram, Google+, as well as Facebook for all the latest and greatest on our hobby report. So let's go wrap it up for this battle report for Sunday for our sci-fi week. On Thursday, we'll be doing Necromunda. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you guys in the next one. You guys stay classy. Peace out.